Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Sounds Like Sam. I'm your host Sam. Thanks for tuning in. I wanted to talk about a few things today regarding fantasy football and the NFL. It is week 5, so there definitely are a lot of storylines going on, and I just wanted to bring them up and talk about them. I wanted to talk about Jordan Mason and Christian McCaffrey. I feel like this is a pretty big topic that nobody's really talking that much about, especially because Christian McCaffrey at this point is now slated to be out until November. It looks like he's going to return early November. And if you only drafted Christian McCaffrey and you didn't draft his backup late, or you didn't pick him up off the waiver wires after week 1, you're in a really tough position if you're 0-4 right now. And if you have Jordan Mason and Christian McCaffrey does end up coming back, then you're also going to be in a bad position moving forward as well. So this just got me thinking, if I didn't have Christian McCaffrey and Jordan Mason on the same team, and I didn't have that safety net, basically, who would I be looking to trade for in order to still have a solid team to, when going into the playoffs, I'm going to be in a good position? So I think if you have Christian McCaffrey, I think you just have to try to make it to 500 by the time he returns. And hopefully that's not like 6-6. Hopefully it's more like 4-4. So that you can go into the rest of the season and have Christian McCaffrey there. And if you have Jordan Mason and Christian McCaffrey returns, then the rest of the season you're kind of not in a good spot. So to make sure that you're in a good spot, some of the running backs I think that you should look to trade Jordan Mason for, if you have him, would be Josh Jacobs, Chuba Hubbard, David Montgomery, Brian Robinson, and DeAndre Swift. So these guys in particular, I feel like they're all kind of running back 2s on people's radars, but they're also possible like borderline running back 1s. Josh Jacobs, I think with Jordan Love back, is going to really start to produce again. I think because he was facing a tough defense, that kind of put a slander on his value at this point, but I do think he is going to be good moving forward. Chuba Hubbard, I think with Andy Dalton playing on quarterback for the Panthers, his value has definitely increased a ton. I do think that I don't know if he's going to maintain his like last 2 games, which were both 20-point plus games for him, but I think he is going to be a solid running back for you, averaging, I'd say, anywhere from 14 to 16 points an outing. So I do actually like him moving forward. I think he's running the ball really well. He is the running back 1 for them. David Montgomery, I think he's technically, like, even though he's a split back with Jahmyr Gibbs on the Detroit Lions, I really like him as a running back, and I think he is a borderline running back 1. Just the way he handles the ball, and they both seem to get equal carries, so I think they're a high scoring team. So I really like David Montgomery, and I think you should definitely I think he'd be a great trade candidate for Jordan Mason. And then I think Brian Robinson is another great guy to trade for as well, just because I think the Commanders, with Jaden Daniels playing so well and him on the rise, that just balances the defense or the offense even more. And with Brian Robinson's size, I wouldn't be surprised if he turns out to be kind of like the next Derrick Henry type of runner. People don't really see him that way because, I mean, they do like to split the carries a little bit, but it does favor Brian Robinson in the backfield. And I think with the more offense that is going to be going not only through Jaden Daniels' legs, but through the air, it definitely is going to make more room for run plays to happen because it's going to keep defenses on their heels. And I really like that. So I really like Brian Robinson moving forward as well. And then DeAndre Swift of the Bears, he just had his first big game. I know I'm kind of banking on it for him to like do well moving forward. But I do think that he has got some chemistry going with with Caleb Williams. And I do think that moving forward, he's going to be a great PPR back. He's going to catch a lot of back passes out of the backfield because they just don't have they don't have a good offensive line. They need to be able to get the ball out fast. He needs to be a guy who Caleb Williams can go to when there is nothing basically available. And I think that last week we saw that emerge, and I think it's going to be a little better for him moving forward. I have faith in them. I think that if you have Jordan Mason, I think Christian McCaffrey is coming back. There's obviously a risk he's not, but those are the players that I would look to trade Jordan Mason away for because I do think Christian McCaffrey is coming back. The next subject I had on my mind was Tyreek Hill and Brandon Ayuk. They're wide receiver ones. They're playing not very well for different reasons. Tyreek Hill's quarterback Tua Tagovailoa is out for the foreseeable future. Not really sure when he's going to be able to come back because of his concussion, but I do think they are trying to get him the ball, and I know he's one of the best players in the NFL. They will find a way to get him the ball. They will find a way to get him involved because if they don't, then I mean, what's the point of having him? So they just need to figure that out. And I think once they make that click happen, you're gonna want to have Tyreek on your team. So for anybody who's looking for a guy to trade and get, I think Tyreek Hill is one of those guys who, I mean, he's seen as undervalued right now because he doesn't have a quarterback. But like, trust me, I think he's still the best, one of the best wide receivers in the game, and his struggles will come to an end shortly. For Brandon Ayuk, I feel like he's not in the same situation because he still has Brock Purdy. I think Juwan Jennings coming up and making a big impact on the team. Surprisingly, right after Brandon Ayuk gets signed to like a $200 million contract. It's not necessarily a good look for Brandon Ayuk, but I think because of teams are like maybe going after Brandon Ayuk a little bit more, maybe it's showing that he isn't like he was. I don't know, but I still think he's a good player. I think he just needs to give him a little more time. It is only week 4, so I think by the end of the season he is going to start being a clutch guy for you. If you have him in fantasy, still have confidence in him that he's going to get it back in his groove. And I think it will take a little time, but I think over the next couple weeks, if you don't really see improvement, then maybe it's time to like fire off some trades and see what you can get for him. I do think he's gonna find success in the second half of the season, and I like both players still, so I wouldn't give up on either of them. If I had to have one of the two, I'd probably rather have Tyreek Hill because he has such a big playability, but I really like both still, and just don't give up on them. If you do, or if someone in your league does, maybe try to trade for them. That's my advice. So next, I wanted to talk about the tight end position in fantasy football as really the top 3 picks for a lot of people in fantasy. Travis Kelce from the Chiefs, Sam Laporta on the Detroit Lions, and then Mark Andrews from the Baltimore Ravens have all been playing kind of dookie right now. The only bright spot right now for Travis Kelce, unfortunately, is the fact that Rashee Rice is injured. Otherwise, they really weren't getting him involved. And I think their offensive struggles. They're 4-0, so they're still winning games. But like the fact that they're not really getting Kelce involved, it was a little bit of an issue, at least for me. And I think you're going to start to see him in a little bit more action, hopefully, because Rashee Rice is out and because the other wide receivers they have just haven't really been playmakers for them. So either a wide receiver has to step up, or I think they have to start going back to Kelce, and I think they are going to choose to go back to Kelce. So hopefully that can play out for the future. I know he was a top 2, or he was a number 2 draft pick for a lot of people, or even like for me, I think I got him in round 3 for my league, but he's definitely still a playmaker, so I hope that he can get past these struggles. But yeah, he still doesn't have a touchdown. I don't even think he's passed 200 yards in 4 games total. So hopefully he gets a little better. Sam Laporta, he just had like a 50-yard game with 4 receptions, so he's starting to trend a little bit in the right direction. But I'm a little bit disappointed with how they haven't been really making him a centerpiece in the end zone because he was such a good target last year. I will say I think it's because of the emergence of Jameson Williams for the Lions, really just being a go-to weapon for Jared Goff. That's played a big part of it, and I think game script has as well. You have to remember too, they have two of the best running backs in the league with them, so I'm hoping it gets a little better because he is such a red zone threat, but it is a little bit worrisome. But I wouldn't give up on him either. Hopefully he can turn it around starting this week. That'd be nice. Although this week he's on bye, so it'd be next week. Then Mark Andrews has been a huge disappointment as well. I feel like every other year he's like really good. This year it's not. He hasn't been good at all. I think they've just been going to other players. I think because they have Derrick Henry too, that's been a huge pinpoint for them. Is just they run the ball a lot, and Mark Andrews' job is now really just to block. Unfortunately, it's just kind of the way the game script has gone. Uh, and yeah, all three of them have played poorly, but I think moving forward, hopefully they should get a little bit better. But um, honestly, there's no guarantee. Like it just is another reason why tight ends shouldn't be drafted high. I don't think that people should remove them from leagues and make them a flex position. I heard that take, and I was just like, well, I mean that's part of the game though. Like everybody knows tight ends don't do well, so that's part of the game. Like you kind of rolling the dice every single time. So you just have to work with what you got basically, and work the waiver wire better. I don't know, but yeah, that's my take on the tight ends in fantasy. I wanted to go over some injury updates now. The big one that I just found out today, right now, was that Malik Neighbors is out with a concussion. Malik Neighbors has been the number one receiver in fantasy football, and he's averaging over 100 yards a game, and he has 3 touchdowns in 4 games. Or does he have 4 touchdowns in 4 games? I can't remember, but he's doing really well, and he's a rookie. And so if you have him, definitely find someone else to start this week because he's out. Yeah, that was big news. AJ Brown, it looks like he's going to be out a few more weeks. Wide receiver for the Eagles. Cooper Kupp, wide receiver for the Rams. He will definitely miss this week versus the Packers and is expected to be out until after their week 6 bye for a potential return for the Raiders. But there's no guarantee, obviously, so just keep an eye out. But once he gets back, hopefully he'll do really well again because he started off the first 2 games amazing. So if you can just get that going again and just be healthy, that would be nice to see. Rashee Rice, he was injured last game versus the Chargers. Was supposed to be out the rest of the season. Now might make a slightly earlier comeback towards the end of the season, but it's not looking good for that either. Make adjustments accordingly. Tank Dell should be playing this week. He didn't play last week. Honestly, I don't even know why he just didn't. And now he's back apparently, so that's good, I guess. But like, he wasn't even playing that well this whole year, so I'd like to see a little bit more from him. I guess we'll see what happens with him. Christian McCaffrey, his Achilles tendonitis in both legs, and reportedly he will return in November, like I talked about earlier. So it's not guaranteed that he'll return in November, but that's just their prediction. So definitely, if he comes back, huge for Christian McCaffrey owners. If he doesn't, that's also huge. So just keep an eye on that for sure. And then Nick Chubb of the Browns, he's their running back. He's now eligible to practice with the team for 21 days. By the end of that window, he must either be activated to the 53-man roster or ruled out for the remainder of the season. So that's pretty big, especially if you drafted him really late. I did in a league, and I'm just waiting for his return. I think because of their injury woes, he'll be super nice to have back, and I think he'd be a top 10 back when he returns. I guess we'll just have to see how things play out, but definitely a little bit of a risk, but also a huge reward if he comes back playing like he was like 2 years ago. So, or 3, I can't remember, but he's definitely a top 10 back if healthy. Davantae Adams, this isn't this says, although I think he's out this week, but he is someone that I wanted to talk about as he is on the trade block. He requested a trade from the Raiders. It looked like they granted that request and are now looking for suitors. One of the interesting things about this has to be that, like, I think it was some random person made a post, or maybe it wasn't a random person, but it was like Bleacher Report or something. They made a post that was like, "Oh well, this could be a time that you see Davantae Adams getting traded." And then I guess the head coach liked the post before it was even like news. So that's what really got me thinking about this. And some of the teams that I think that he could be a good fit for would be the Eagles, the Steelers, and the Buffalo Bills. And then I'll get to that, I guess, in a minute. But those are 3 teams that I liked. But then when I was reading what other people were talking about, where they would go, or where he would go, would be the New York Jets, Steelers, the Ravens, the Packers, Commanders, Cowboys, Bills, 49ers, the Saints, and the Chiefs. Specifically, Rich Eisen on his show, he talked about his top 5 teams. He said that the Cowboys, the Bills, the New Orleans Saints, the New York Jets, and the Chiefs. And I have to say, I didn't really think about the Chiefs at the beginning. I did think about the New York Jets a little bit. Kind of didn't think about the Saints either, but I really like that list for him because of a few reasons. One, the Chiefs in particular, I mean, they just lost Rasheed Rice. They're looking for a guy to come in and make a difference immediately. A lot of those guys that they have on their team like haven't done anything, especially like Sky Moore. Like, talk about a throwback. He was like a first or second round pick a couple years ago. Everyone thought he was going to be like the guy, and like he just hasn't done anything. So I think I mean, I don't know what to make of that, but maybe he'll get more involved this week. I doubt it, but I think that's a really good spot for Davantae Adams. I also read a little bit different, but possibly Keenan Allen could go to the Chiefs. I really like that if he's healthy. He just hasn't really been playing that well with the Bears, and I think because of their offensive line issues, it's been a struggle for Caleb Williams. And he just hasn't really been throwing the ball well to like on easy throws. But yeah, I guess we'll see. Like the most likely go-to spot for Davantae Adams is the New York Jets, and this is because of his Aaron Rodgers connection. And apparently, Aaron is like really pushing for Davantae Adams to be on the team. And it'd be kind of funny because I mean they have Allen Lazard, but it also would, like, if they bring him on, it's possible this would really devalue, what is his name, the Ohio State guy, Garrett Wilson. It won't devalue him, but that value would decrease for sure. That's like the main spot that they think he's gonna go to. I think Davantae would like to go to be with Aaron, but I wouldn't actually mind seeing him with the New Orleans Saints with Derek Carr again, because he did really well with him from his like college days with Davantae Adams, and like the Derek Carr to Davantae Adams connection is still prevalent. So and I think they do kind of need another guy to step in and make a difference, because I just feel like their team hasn't been doing that great in the last 2 weeks, and they just need a little spark. I mean, they had a great week 1 and week 2, but like they kind of gone downhill a little bit. So be interesting to see what happens. Right now, it looks like New York Jets are the team to get Davantae. But yeah, that was the episode. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't already, go subscribe to my podcast. Sounds like Sam wherever you get your podcast. If you listen to it on Apple Podcasts, make sure you subscribe and leave a review. All right, thanks for tuning in, and have a great one.